in 1967, Roland Barthes wrote La mort de l'auteur, the death of the author, an essay proclaiming that the opinions of an author on what his text may mean are irrelevant to the interpretation of said text. In 2020, Julian and Magnus Dorra decided that the author's abilities are just as irrelevant. This is Kill the Author. Hello and welcome to Kill the Author. We're back, episode 12. Episode 12?
Maybe. Probably.
Episode 12. That's what I named the file, at least.
My script's called episode 7, but that's because this is the 7th episode of School Days.
We're at the 7th episode of School Days. And you might remember from last time that, or even the time before we talked about that this is the Nothing Happens part of School Days. Kind of.
I would argue that something does happen.
Yeah, I think we're moving out of the Nothing Happens part of School Days now. Wait,
I thought we were moving into it.
No, the Nothing Happens part of School Days was literally just episode 6. We're coming to a very interesting point in School Days now. A point that sort of brings back an issue that we sort of touched on in the past a little bit. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we'll get to that. There's something general that shows up a few times in this episode that I noted on after it happened a few times and that I wrote down to mention at the start. And that is that, in my opinion, the characterization in this episode is super weird. This is something that I'd never noticed before when watching School Days, but since right now we're going through it like literally episode per episode, writing down everything, noting down everything, I felt that like almost every character acted really out of character in this episode, or like really strange in this episode. I don't know if you noticed this, but we might get to it when we go through it.
I did definitely notice some weird about one character in particular. Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Start us off. Where do we begin in the episode?
So, the last episode ended essentially in horror, if you remember. Kotonoha went up to the roof and she literally saw Makoto and Sakai making out. So now she's no longer afraid that he might be cheating on her with someone else. He knows for sure that he is.
Yeah. She's aware of it now.
Yeah. So in this episode, we start off with a pretty small scene that I yet have a few things to say about.
All right.
Basically, we see Setsuna and someone else hanging up flyers for the school festival. The guy that she's putting up these flyers with is an absolute fearful giant. He's gigantic compared to her. I noticed
that he looks very tall to her, but like Setsuna is tiny, right?
Yeah. So I dug a little deeper.
Okay.
So I noticed that this guy looked ridiculously large compared to her. It's part of the fact that she literally only reaches to his chest, and that and the perspective, like she's in the front of the screen, further down. I think this made him look even more enormous. So, just in a few scenes, we actually find out who this is. I'm just gonna say it now. His name is Tanaka.
Ah, okay, that's Tanaka. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I remember one character trait about Tanaka from when we get to him later, when he's mentioned later.
Yeah.
It's that he doesn't have a head. So that makes sense. It makes sense that he doesn't have a head in this scene.
He is very big. So before this, when I saw this, how ridiculously big this guy looked compared to her, I thought, is it really just that she's that tiny? So I went back to the previous episode and just looked at a couple of shots where you can see Setsuna alongside other characters, so you can get an idea. And from what I saw, Sakai seems to be about the same size that Kotonoha is, the same height. And Setsuna is about half a head smaller, while Makoto is about half a head taller than the two of them.
Okay. So Makoto's about a head taller than Setsuna.
Yeah. So before I went any further, I realized, wait, what the hell am I doing? There's a wiki with ridiculously precise information.
Yeah, we know their blood types.
Everyone.
There's no way it doesn't tell us how tall all of them are.
So I looked it up. So Setsuna is 1.42 m, which in America is
pretty tiny.
Which is 4'8". That is very tiny indeed.
That is a very small person.
Yeah. Sakai is 155. That's 5'1". Kotonoha is 156.7,
All right.
which is 5'2". She's just
So
barely
they're
smaller.
still pretty small. Like,
Yeah.
that's still small people.
And Makoto is 1 meter 67.5. That's 5'6".
All right.
Which is
Tiny.
still really small.
Still really small. Still a really small man.
So first of all, I want to mention just a little thing. In all of these characters, it said what height they have in centimeters and in inches and and feet. Only for Setsuna, it only said what the centimeters are. Garbage wiki, would not use again. Did not tell me the size of Setsuna in feet.
Have to translate yourself.
Yeah.
Terrible. Bad wiki.
It also, and Makoto's height, 167, it did say citation needed. I don't know why. Why it wouldn't know the exact height of Makoto specifically.
I mean, I assume because all the other characters are people you date in the game. And there's probably bios for them in the game. Where with Makoto, you probably don't have a bio containing his size in the game that explains it in more detail.
Actually, when I went through Makoto's wiki, he does appear to have some kind of role in the games at least.
Yeah, you're Makoto.
Yeah,
right?
you are Makoto.
Yeah.
And also, apparently, he has what looked on the wiki like he has 200 paternal half-sisters. He has an insane amount of paternal half-sisters. And yes, multiple of them are dateable. Because of course they are.
That's amazing.
Of course.
Actually, for this episode, I also went through the wiki to look at something. I'll get to that when we get to that. So, what we learned right now is that Makoto would be, tiny compared to the both of us.
Yeah. Speaking of, because I read all this, I thought, maybe this gigantic guy isn't actually that gigantic, is he? And in fact... So I literally took a measuring stick and I just saw how tall is 1 meter 42 compared to me. And he's pretty much the same size that we are. Yeah.
So it really is just that Setsuna is tiny. Maybe, he doesn't have a head. And Japanese people in general aren't as tall as German people. Just in if you take the mean size, the mean height. So maybe this guy is just, German.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just from Scandinavia or something like that.
So I'm 6 foot. That's 183. And I think you're 6'1.5".
I think I'm 6'1" or 6'2". Yeah, around that.
Yeah, we're big. We're large, basically.
We're large people. We're tall people.
We're tall people.
Also, we could we're at a great height to kick Makoto in the stomach.
Yeah, it's great.
In the balls.
Spit him on the head, maybe.
Yeah, spit him on the head. That's great. Oh, we could. Oh man, this thing that bullies do, where they put your head in an arm lock,
and then look
they look at you. He's at a great height for that. That's
wonderful.
Pretty good.
So I took one last stroll at the wiki to see if it actually told us how tall Tanaka is. It doesn't. There's very little information about him. He's an extremely minor character.
One note I have in this text that I took down here is who the fuck is Tanaka? So.
Yeah. All it said is that he's the male representative of the class, and Setsuna's the female representative.
In their school council.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they would be putting up these flyers together. If he's the other guy. It says he's the class representative.
That also comes up again, in a small bit.
It also said that apparently he has a crush on Setsuna.
I mean, he is a male character in proximity to a female character.
In school days.
So chances are yes.
And it did specifically mention that he's very big and his head is never on screen.
Okay, that's good. That's good that they also noticed it.
In fact, is not. We see that again later.
All right.
So on the poster, we see that again. It says that the theme is sincerity and good faith. The class displays are at days 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And an after party on day 3 in the evening. Yeah. So this is the timetable, I think.
Yeah. Day 1 through 3 is whatever the classes are putting up, which is cafes or haunted houses or whatever.
We, in fact, in a few scenes, we know exactly what every class is doing.
Yeah, and also, we even see in a later episode what happens at the after party. So
I remember all of this.
We get to go through all of this together.
So next we move on to a scene on the roof. Good old roof.
Good old roof. Good old roof, and we probably won't be seeing it for a long while after this episode.
Very well
At least from what the characters say.
So Sakai and Makoto are here. Kotonoha isn't.
Yes.
As far as we know, at this point.
It's specifically mentioned that Kotonoha isn't here and hasn't been here for a while.
Sakai says so. Makoto seems to He's like super juvenile and happy, and it kind of seems a lot like he does not care at all.
Yeah.
Like Sekai mentions Kotonoha in a worried tone.
Yeah, she says that Makoto has been avoiding her in the mornings.
And she actually asks him, like, is this okay what we're doing? And all I wrote down in my notes is, oh my god!
Sekai!
Stop it!
I wrote down, Sekai feels morally bad, but making out with him fixes it again.
Of course it does.
It's every single time. We shouldn't be doing this. Here, kissy kissy. Oh, alright.
Yeah. So Makoto says that he doesn't care, he doesn't mind. But I kind of feel that, like, he probably does. Because he is avoiding her actively.
Yeah.
Every morning.
Yeah, that's mostly probably just him not wanting to confront the issue. Like, that's what we've seen of Makoto in the past. Like, he just, instead of heading, he doesn't really care about Kotonoha anymore. He doesn't really want to spend time with her anymore. But he also doesn't want to break it off because that's like, it's hard, it's painful, whatever. He doesn't really care about her anymore, but he just doesn't want to end it.
So then they grossly kiss in the school day fashion.
As always.
And we can see that Kotonoha was watching the whole thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I did know that this would happen, so I mentioned it earlier.
Alright.
Like a smart boy.
Build up. Good build up. Yeah, it's basically, I was tempted to write again the same thing I wrote at the end of the last episode, which was Snake and Lupin are having sex while Dobby was watching.
In fact, I was wondering, is this the same scene?
No, it's not. Like, they talked about that she hadn't been up on the roof with them for a while, which makes me assume...
Okay.
Also, because of things that happened later on in this episode, I kind of get the feeling that a lot of time has passed since the last episode and this one. Mainly because a lot of the characters seem to have... The out-of-character thing, because it seems like there has been a change of character in a lot of these folks. But, yeah.
So maybe there is a rational explanation for it.
There's a simple explanation for it. Anyways.
Then we get the intro.
I think that's No, I think that's another anime with kind of weird relationships.
Yeah. I've been rewatching all of Sword Art Online a while ago.
I watched the spin-off series. It's pretty good.
And Agretzko and some actual anime.
Yeah, like the few anime that you watch.
Yeah, I don't watch anime a lot, but it was quite the difference to just watch some real anime again.
Yeah.
After nothing but school days for a while.
Yeah.
The difference is night and day.
It also, like, I think, this is a small thing that I mentioned did I mention it before? It's something I talk about a lot when I try to pitch school days to people as something to watch. That it's like all the anime cliches without the stuff that makes them sufferable.
Yeah.
Like, I like Sword Art Online. I actually like it. I'm torn on it, but like...
I have mixed feelings about it.
There's a lot of fucking cool shit in that anime. Whenever like da 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 da, whenever this music comes up, whenever there's like an awesome fucking fight scene, I'm down. And I don't care about the stupid harem anime shit that they try to pull on us, especially in the first season. But this anime is just that. It's just the cliches that you endure because you like some other aspects of the anime, without any of the charm, without any of the stuff that makes you stick around. Anyway, to get away from Sword Art Online again.
Yeah.
And to this flawed anime.
So after the intro...
Okay.
So after the intro... I did it again. So after the intro, we're now at Kotonoha's home.
Yeah.
Home. What is wrong with me?
Fucking drunk.
All I'm drinking is cider. There's like no alcohol in
This is your second glass of cider, dude. Cut it off. He said, drinking a beer. Alright. So we're at Kotonoha's home. And...
So we're at Kotonoha's home.
No!
We are at Kotonoha's home.
Yes. We are in Kotonoha's home.
We're leaving nothing of this in. You're never gonna know about this one.
What the fuck happens? What the fuck happens at her home?
She's knitting
Mm-hmm.
to some classical music.
Mm-hmm.
I could not and was not willing to pinpoint what music this is. I don't care.
I am not sure if I actually wrote down anything about this scene from the get-go, so...
Just a little, there's traditional music anyway. I thought this might be, like, reminding us, like, this traditional theme of Kotonoha and her lifestyle.
The trad wife.
Yeah.
The trad wife Kotonoha.
So she's sitting there questioning to herself why she would be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Why he would be doing this.
Why he would be doing this.
Yeah, and why Sekai would be making out with
This
him.
is a weird thing about the way that Kotonoha's acting this whole episode.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem extremely down or broken like she did in the past few episodes. She's just kind of extremely neutral.
Yeah.
Like, she never changes her expression.
I feel
except for later when she's happy for a bit.
I feel like Kotonoha has planted herself firmly in the denial stage of grief at this point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of where she's gonna stay for the rest of the show, for the most part.
Because before she had some amount of deniability. Because all the evidence she really had for herself is that she saw them kiss while she drove by on a train very quickly. So she could probably convince herself that it wasn't them.
Yeah.
But now she definitely knows for sure that they're in a relationship. Yeah. And now she's in full denial mode.
The thing I kind of got the feeling for, and that's something I also never got the feeling for before, because we never watched the show the way we are doing this right now, is that this is sort of an extension of what's been happening throughout the show, which is she has seen that this thing happens, she has seen Makoto do something horrible and monstrous and be a shitty person, and she has sort of like, okay, that's something that's happening. What am I gonna do next? Like, because of the way we've seen things develop, this isn't the first time this happens. Makoto just gets worse and worse, and she just keeps accepting it. This is mainly just another step in that. It's, okay, he's making out with the guy. That's something I'm gonna have to accept now. What am I gonna do now with this information? And the thing that she decides to do with this information is, it seems like he doesn't love me anymore. That must be something I did wrong, which is also an advancement of everything that's been happening so far. How can I make it right? How can I make sure that he likes me again?
In fact, she does question herself right there in the scene, like, what did she do wrong?
Yeah.
And then she has some flashbacks of how, well, like, when he physically approached her, she rejected him. Of how in the cinema scene, the second episode, she slapped him. So I feel like now she's seeing her own, like, few moments of autonomy that she had as a flaw.
The boundaries, the few boundaries she set up as the issue, as why he doesn't love her anymore.
It's getting worse. It's just getting worse.
Here's something that came to my mind about this. And this is something that came to me throughout this episode, and that's thinking about the game. We talked before about like how some aspects of the story developed because it was a game before, but I think we always gave the game a lot of leeway. The kind of interpretation we had was the anime is shit not because of the game it's based on, but because it took a really weird path with the game it was based on. And I feel this episode sort of highlights the issues that must have been in the game already. Because is this the Kotonoha storyline in the game? Is it, if you want her to like put out to have sex with your character, you have to mentally ruin her to a point where she blames herself for having boundaries? Is this how the game works? Is this how you get her in the game? Because if that is the case, that's fucking horrible. That's really fucking horrible. That's probably one of the endings you can work towards. I can imagine that being how it works, because there are a lot of endings with Kotonoha, and a lot of them are kind of shit from what I've seen before.
Yeah. Like this one.
Yeah, this one is a pretty shit Kotonoha ending, gotta say. And it's not even one from the game, but yeah.
So her sister shows up, Kokoro, you remember Kokoro. And she reminds us, the audience, that the festival's coming up.
Yeah.
It was mentioned the last scene, but sure. And that she wants to go there. I don't remember, but she was probably there, right?
At the festival?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think so, but I can't say for sure.
Maybe. I remember one thing from the festival.
I remember Kokoro just sort of disappearing halfway throughout the show. Or like 3/4 way throughout the show.
I mean, for the most part, I forget that Kokoro's on the show. Like, I did at least.
I'm pretty sure she doesn't show up again after the festival, and that's kind of weird because some pretty important stuff still happens after the festival.
Involving Kotonoha.
Yeah, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
So next, we get to a pretty long scene that I made way too many notes about.
Okay. This is also the scene that I made the most notes about in all of this.
So we are now in Makoto's classroom.
Yeah.
Which I'm now calling Class 3.
Okay, yeah, because we know it's Class 3.
Yeah, the numbers become more relevant here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Setsuna, Sekai, Makoto, and Nanami hanging out.
I was Nanami, cool.
The boy. The one we call boy.
I did not look up her name again.
Mm-hmm. So what we have there is a big costume of that one mascot.
Yeah, the mascot suit. The one we talked about last episode.
Yeah.
The one where we had this theory that Setsuna might have worn it to specifically break apart Kotonoha and Makoto more.
Yeah.
And she is the one who rented it, as we hear at this point. Which kind of, I don't know, gives some power to that theory.
When Makoto asks Setsuna whether she rented it, she gives him like what I assume is a peace sign to say yes. Or is she telling him that she rented too? I don't know. Yeah,
I also thought like... For 2 days? I don't know why you're trying to tell me.
2 days? The festival's like 4 days long. What? What are we supposed to do?
They also here talk about what all the classes are doing.
Yeah, Hikari walks in. Hikari Beefsteak runs in to the classroom.
Yes.
And she spills them the tea that Class 1 is doing a Little Sisters Cafe and Class 2 is doing a zombie cafe. Yeah. Now this is Class 3. And Kotonoha's class is Class 4. Yeah. I don't know if there's any more classes.
Let's assume there's 4, because it sounds like that from this point.
I think on the classroom signs, whenever we see them, it says always 1-3, 1-4.
I assume they have the same, like, high school level. Yeah.
Whatever, with that thing. And what she's telling them is that it seems that what Class 2 is doing, the zombie cafe, is kind of like a stolen concept idea of Class 3's thing, which is the Little Sisters Cafe, and Class 4's thing, which is the Haunted House. That they kind of merged Haunted House together with cafe and made a zombie cafe. Yeah. Which is what Class 2 is doing. And first of all, what Little Sisters Cafe is a weird gimmick.
They show an image of the Little Sisters Cafe, and I wrote down the concept of a Little Sisters Cafe hurts my bones. I
hate it.
It's part of this strange pedophile-ish culture that you see in anime a lot, which is like, this is basically a maid cafe, but you're supposed to be attracted to the concept that there's young girls, like younger than you girls, that are probably preteens.
I hate it.
It's very bad. I hate this idea. This is a terrible concept.
Also, why are they making such a big fuss about Class 2 doing something that's so vaguely familiar to them? When Class 1 is literally doing the same thing that Class 3 is doing. They're both doing Little Sister Cafes.
Yeah, but one of them's a rip-off. That's worse.
Why is Class 2 the rip-off? I don't get it. They just stole their thing.
Also, something I wrote down about this scene, and that's something that's going to continue throughout this part of the show that we're getting to now, is we've talked before in this podcast about, like, we're not sure how aware the writers are of how dark the shit they're writing about is. Like, are they aware that this is extremely toxic, that Makoto is an irredeemably terrible character, about all of these things that we've talked about before? And this part of the show, and this scene in particular, brought that into focus for me, because right before that, we had that, like, genuinely kind of dramatic scene with Kotonoha, where we see how deep her denial is at this point. What's the mood supposed to be? The tonal dissonance gets really fucking dark this episode, and it continues onward. Where we're like, on the one hand, we have basically a horror, like a romantic horror plot, while on the other end, we have this stupid anime high school shenanigans. And this is only going to continue throughout the school festival. I just wanted to bring it up here because we're going to go back to this. And this is where I first really noticed it.
I thought about how you just mentioned how other animes are only bearable because you don't need to focus on the weird romance plot and can focus on the action. The school festival, that's the action. That's the good stuff.
The school festival is actually the thing I always think about when I make this analogy, because the school festival is just stupid anime bullshit. Like, imagine an anime that's just that one scene of someone falling into a chick's boobs. Like, that's School Days. It's just that one thing throughout an anime. That's how it feels to me.
That and the misogyny.
Terrible misogyny. And a bit of, like, nunk. And a bit of nod and wink to the pedophiles, which is always appreciated.
A nunk to the pedophiles.
A nunk to the pedophiles. Ugh.
Stop. So Setsuna asks Sakai to explain to everyone how to be a server, which makes sense because she works as a server.
Yeah.
At the one and only.
At the Radish.
The Radish bar.
And I think it's at this point, like after a very quick explanation that, oh fuck, what was his name?
I'm actually just halfway through my notes for the scene.
All right, continue on.
So Setsuna just seems really serious about this, but this might be because she always seems really serious.
Yeah, and she's also like in charge.
Yeah, what she says here is that they're gonna stomp Class 1 and 2. So I guess she did acknowledge that Class 1 is also copied.
Yeah.
And then we can see a shot of the whole class and everyone going like, yeah! And with everyone, I mean crude gray figurines, some of which have a raised arm.
Like 6 crude figurines, because this class is apparently very, very underutilized at this point.
I'm also saying this because approximately 6 shots later or something, we once again see a shot of the whole screen and they're still the exact same. They still have their arms raised. They never put them down, I guess.
Oh man, there's a point later in this half of the episode where I specifically thought, wow, this animation is cheap, huh? We'll get to that.
So now Taisuke dashes in and tells them about the already before mentioned Tanaka.
Yeah, but what's relevant is you mentioned that before in that before scene was Tanaka. The show does not mention that in the before scene is Tanaka.
It kind of does because we see like 2 tiny shots for a moment when Tanaka is mentioned. And one of the shots is a small cutout from the scene at the beginning where we see Setsuna with someone in front of her hanging up the posters. This is how I figured out that it's him.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, he comes in and says, Tanaka! And I'm like, who the fuck is Tanaka?
In fact...
Is it a man? You're talking about a man. You're using he, him pronouns. Wait, there's another man in this anime?
Yeah, what? In fact, Makoto reacts the same. He also goes like, Tanaka? So,
oh no.
Taisuke mentions that...
I hate the idea that Makoto is the audience insert. Okay, continue.
And I hate Taisuke. So, Taisuke mentions that he broke his arm in judo. And we get an image of him with like his judo uniform with his arm in a cast. Without his head on screen.
His head is off screen. Because he's so tall that his head cannot be perceived.
And Makoto is like, Tanaka, is that guy that's like really big? And I thought like, what are you talking? There's like 10 people in your class. How do you not know who this is? He's your class representative. How do you not know who Tanaka is?
You know, Makoto's just not very interested in politics.
Yeah.
That's just the main thing.
So then they mentioned that Setsuna's gonna be alone now on the preparation team.
Yeah.
And then we just get a shot of Makoto's face for a bit. And that one was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because Taisuke mentions, while Kotonoha's doing it alone as well.
Yeah.
Like, she's doing her haunted house alone. And when he says this, Makoto kind of looks sad.
Yeah.
Genuinely sad.
Yeah, like he suddenly feels bad for Kotonoha for a second.
I suddenly had this weird feeling. Makoto is capable of feeling bad for another human being.
He had a brief moment of, like, humanity creep up in him, but it doesn't last long.
I saw it
thankfully.
Like flicker up in his eyes. There's a soul in there somewhere.
But then someone suggests that Makoto should jump in as class representative, and then it ends.
He immediately says he doesn't want to do it, essentially because he's lazy. He says he doesn't want to work with other people, at first. But then Setsuna walks in.
But before we get to that, I just want to mention something really quick, because when this scene happened and Setsuna mentioned that she's now going to have to work alone. On this, all the others mentioned that Setsuna is not going to have to work alone on this. My immediate thought was, this must be something from the game too. This seems like a point on the Setsuna romance route where you can like help her out and then maybe spend time with her and like jump in now that the other person has jumped out of this thing. And I thought that so much that I thought, let's just check out Setsuna's entry on the wiki and see if that is an actual thing that happens. So, apparently this is not something where you can date Setsuna because of it and something like that. But I found some other interesting facts about Setsuna.
Okay.
Like, not interesting facts, but interesting facts about what you can do with Setsuna and the plot. So Setsuna...
do I really want to know this?
It's very brief.
Okay.
So Setsuna is one of the dateable characters. But she will usually not be an endgame dateable character. From what I've seen, there's only one ending where you end up with Setsuna.
Okay.
Technically. Now, there's something that's going to happen in a bit of a later episode that sort of reveals to us that Setsuna will not stay at this school.
Yeah, I remember that.
She will move away because of things that happen. We'll get to that more in detail when we get to that. But something fun that I found out about it is, depending on your choices in the game, you can actually get Setsuna pregnant.
Excuse me?
That is the only ending where you end up with Setsuna. Before Setsuna moves away, you have sex with her. And depending on your choices, you can get her pregnant.
What the hell? She's like 2 inches tall.
Later on, she then comes by... It ends with Makoto being at home, Setsuna being at the door, she's pregnant, and Makoto's mom asks... Makoto's mom is actually a character in the games, by the way. She exists. Makoto's mom asks who that is, and Setsuna says, "I'm his wife." So that's the Setsuna ending.
So now at least we have confirmation that the game indeed is also garbage.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought in this episode. Let's check what the game is doing. Oh, you can get Setsuna pregnant, who looks like a literal child. That's great.
Anyway, Setsuna shows up. And she starts spitting facts, meaning she says immediately that Makoto only doesn't want to work with her in the meeting because he does not want to be where Kotonoha is.
Yeah.
And in fact, she moves on to immediately say they broke up.
Yeah.
They're not together anymore.
Yeah.
And everyone, including Makoto's like, what? What the hell?
Yeah, everybody else. That's what really bugged me. It was like everybody else was, what? You and Kotonoha aren't together anymore? What? You're together with Sekai now? After like...
Everyone has the memory of a goldfish.
Everyone was like, oh, everyone was convinced Makoto and Sekai were together. Like, all show. And suddenly like, no, there's no way. These two can't be together. No.
So, I hate Makoto. Like, you can't imagine how much I hate Makoto. Yes. But Sekai is in Setsuna's incredibly invasive here.
Yeah.
Like, in every regard.
I mean, she is, but also, like, at this point of the episode, I thought, oh, fucking thank God.
I see what you mean.
Thank God someone is advancing this.
Yeah. She also says he is with Sekai now. And everyone's shocked. Next, we get a pretty short scene in Class 4.
Just something really quick I wanted to mention about this scene. It's a tiny thing, but it's irrelevant about the scene before. I just thought it was funny because somebody suggests that Taisuke might actually, instead of Makoto, join the class president thingy and stuff. And Kato? Is it Kato? Is that her name?
Hikari. You mean Hikari?
Hikari jumps in and is like, no, we need him here. And it's like, so she does that?
So Hikari, I guess, still likes him for one reason or another.
For an undefinable reason.
Why would anyone find anything lovable in Taisuke? I don't get it.
Why would anyone, like, think about Taisuke long enough to want him for anything? But yeah, next scene.
So we're now in Class 4, which is Kotonoha's class.
Yes.
And there we have Kato, and
that was Kato,
and
right?
2 of her 3 gang members, and Kotonoha sitting around the pult, and they're arguing about something with plywood.
Yeah.
Something
how they're building the whole thing. They're doing like this labyrinth.
Yeah, they're building a maze.
Yeah.
And they're just bullying her again.
Yeah.
It's all they do.
Yeah, and what I thought was interesting here is that she like just goes with it. Like, basically, they're bullying her, and she's like, she has this very negative, like, look on her face, and just like, yeah. Which is really interesting after last episode, where she had this moment of courage, where she stood up to them. And now she's back to, like, just taking their bullshit.
Yeah. It makes sense. She, like, lost her will, kind of.
Yeah.
Then we see Minami, which is the 3rd member of Kato's gang.
Yeah. Sitting
in class, and she's busy drawing a shitty maze.
Yeah.
It's just a labyrinth. Here's a small anecdote that has nothing to do with anything. I'm studying games programming now. And we went through a small algorithm on how to, like, make a maze. You can generate one. It's a relatively easy way.
Okay.
And after this, the guy who gave us the lecture immediately said, by the way, we're doing your projects now. Please don't do a maze game. Everyone's doing maze games. We hate them. They're no fun to play. Please don't make those. Maze games suck.
When I think of quickly making a maze, I think of Inception.
Yeah. Make your way. What was make a maze in 1 second that takes in 1 minute?
And 1 minute that takes 2 minutes to solve.
Yeah.
All right. We get to, after this very, very short scene, we get to...
One more thing.
Okay.
There's a specific emphasis that at the end of the maze, there's the rest area.
Mm.
And I remember the rest area.
I remember the rest area.
That's the fuck room.
Yeah. That's the room where you have sex after the labyrinth.
That's the fuck room that this family festival has.
Yeah. It will also get mentioned again, like later in this half of the episode.
Just a bit later.
The next scene begins. And what we have here is... This is a scene that, like, okay, I thought this was Setsuna. We have Setsuna and Makoto on the floor here.
Yep.
On the hallway to a classroom. And the way they're talking, it sounded to me like this is what's going to happen. Setsuna is taking Makoto, like, after what she said before, I'll handle it. She said, I'll handle it to Sekai in regards to the Makoto and Kotonoha are no longer together thing. Now we see her dragging Makoto through the hallway to a classroom, and he says that he's like nervous about what will happen with Kotonoha and stuff like that, and she says, you will have to do it, it has to happen. She's dragging him there, they're going to the classroom, and I thought, they're going to Kotonoha's classroom now, and will fucking force him to break up with her finally. That is not what happens.
No, they're just going to a planning board meeting.
Yeah. Where Kotonoha is there, but like, they don't interact with her.
She's happy to see him, she's like waving at him. He looks upset because, of course, he does. Yeah, they're like
happy. She's like happy that they're gonna spend some time together now. That they're doing the same like school activities, because her school activities always kept her away from him.
And then they just sit down at the back of the class.
Yeah.
So pretty much the rest of our episode is a lot of very small scenes.
Yeah.
A lot of them. So next we move on to what appears to be gym class. And gym class seems to like span over multiple classes because Nanami and Kato are both there.
Yeah.
And they're talking briefly. So basically...
This is payoff for the last episode where like Kato called Nanami on her phone and was like, is it true that Kotonoha and Makoto are together?
Yeah. And Nanami's telling Kato what she heard.
Because she was there with the class meeting before, where Setsuna spilled the tea.
Yeah, and Nanami goes like, "I think Kotonoha was just following Makoto around or something." And Kato is really happy to hear this.
And I was so confused about that, because Kato, like, the reason Kato was mad about the whole Kotonoha thing is because she wants to get with Makoto, right?
Yeah, she hates Kotonoha and she likes Makoto.
Yeah, like she hates Kotonoha and likes Makoto. But, like, the main thing for her was she wants to be with Makoto. Did Nanami just not mention the Sekai thing? Because, like, in the same breath, Setsuna said, he's with Sekai now. Did Nanami just not mention that? Because I feel like she would not be happy about that if she wants to be with Makoto.
Sorry if you heard that. I was pouring myself the rest of the cider.
Yeah,
to drink.
Drunk fucking bastard.
Yeah, I'm so extremely drunk. You have no idea.
It's a third glass of cider. It's getting to be a real problem at this point.
So Kato is really happy, which makes sense.
Makes little sense to me.
I didn't notice, but yeah, Nanami's kind of omitting something here.
Yeah.
So then we get another really short scene. Like the camera pans over to the equipment room. I assume like to a door that leads to the equipment room, because the next short scene is in the equipment room.
Yeah. I wrote a very short notice here first. I'm just going to say that real quick. The break room girls decide to commit federal crimes.
Yeah. So Kato is telling her that she's planning, because apparently she's in charge of the break room in the maze and stuff.
I think these two people that are talking are not Kato and Nanami.
I think they are.
I'm pretty sure they're not. Because Nanami doesn't know about this thing. That becomes important later on.
Yeah, right.
Nanami doesn't know about this. I think that's two different girls that are talking about this.
So apparently, then I guess whoever is in charge of the break room decides to set up a camera in there, aka in the fuck room.
Yeah, to like film the people having sex there.
Right?
Yeah, which is like totally not illegal. That's totally not something you absolutely can't do.
Not in anime world.
They're all going to prison.
So now we move on to like the last longer scene, I guess, which is after the planning board meeting.
Yeah.
Where we have Makoto and Setsuna walking away from it.
Yeah.
And then...
This is the first scene where I thought, oh, someone's acting wildly out of character.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Kotonoha shows up, again, very excited to see Makoto and stuff. And then when she asks Makoto whether he has time, Setsuna just goes, no, he doesn't. Setsuna's acting very strange in this scene.
And Makoto, too. Both of them. Okay, so Setsuna's thing in this scene is she's not trying to break them apart, which is what she's been doing all along. At this point, she's not like, no, you two, no, he's not your boyfriend anymore, and forcing the issue, which would make sense. That's what she said she'd do before. But no, she's not doing that. She's just trying to push Makoto away. And here's the thing that I thought was more out of character. Makoto's fighting this. Makoto wants to talk to Kotonoha. Makoto is not happy with Setsuna dragging him away from her. And that was so weird to me, because that's all he's done so far. He's been trying to get away from Kotonoha. He's been trying not to talk to her. But he's not taking this opportunity that Setsuna's dragging him away. He's trying to stay with Kotonoha. I don't get why. What changed?
I think he might just be acting this way because Kotonoha is around.
But I don't know if that's the case, because, like, he's been weird and disinterested before when Kotonoha was around. Like, when she fucking fell, and he didn't rush to pick her up.
I don't know.
It feels weird to me, because, like, his entire shtick, and even in this episode, as we talked about before, he's been trying to avoid her, and now he's, like, actively trying to talk to her, and is, like, pissed at Setsuna for dragging him away.
So Setsuna is telling Kotonoha that Makoto already has a date.
Yeah.
That she's already meeting up with Sakai.
Yeah.
Which is a lie.
Yeah.
Which we're gonna figure out in a bit. And when they move away, Sakai angrily looks back at Kotonoha.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I thought, like, I didn't really see this as out of character. I guess I just didn't really notice before that. It seems that Setsuna just really does not like Kotonoha.
I don't think it's that she doesn't like Kotonoha. It's that she, like, sees Kotonoha as a threat to Makoto and Sakai getting together. Which seems to be her endgame.
She treats her with so much disrespect, though, throughout this whole episode.
Yeah.
With so absolute disregard.
I think that's, like, the only way she sees Kotonoha. As, like, a direct threat to Sakai being happy with Makoto.
She's extremely invested in Sakai being happy.
And she's also, like, she's putting the blame in the wrong place, man. If you want Sakai to be happy, remove Makoto. That's the issue here.
That's a problem in general, right? No one's blaming Makoto.
No one's blaming Makoto for anything. That's gonna, like, continue until, like, very late game.
Yeah. Especially Makoto isn't blaming Makoto.
Makoto's just not aware of anything. He's not aware of him doing anything wrong. He's just a fucking sociopath.
So then Makoto gets a message from Kotonoha.
Kotonoha tells him she'll write him. She'll text him.
She tells him that if they could eat lunch again on the roof tomorrow, like they always do. And first Setsuna tells him to reject the message. Mm-hmm. Then she takes his phone and just blocks Kotonoha.
Yeah.
And not only this, she, like, figures out his passcode.
Yeah, because it's his birthday.
It's 10/16. 16th of October. Mm-hmm. Says so on the wiki, of course. I checked it, it's true.
Alright. Good. Finally someone holding these writers fucking countable. And yeah, she's the only thing on his block list, so I'm not really sure if he even knows how to access his block list, so this might be permanent.
So first I thought, she blocked Kotonoha on his phone now. What is he gonna do about it? Well,
nothing.
Theoretically, he could just unblock her.
Yeah.
But I think Sakai knows that he won't. Setsuna. I think Setsuna knows that he won't.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually want to talk to Kotonoha. He's not going to do anything about it.
He's just too... Also, like, as I mentioned before, she's the only person on his block list, so maybe he doesn't even know how to access his block list. I don't know if you ever used this feature of his phone before. This is also interesting, though, I think, because we talked about before on this show how phones are utilized in the show. That phones are, like, used as the point of contact between people, where people can, like, truthfully exchange emotions and actually contact each other in that way. And this point is not only like metaphorically Kotonoha, is not only literally Kotonoha being blocked from his phone by Setsuna, it's also like Setsuna deliberately putting herself between him and Kotonoha. So she's like not only putting her away from his phone, but in doing so cutting off the connection between the two of them, which is something that's gonna continue throughout the school festival thing. Makoto losing all connection to Kotonoha that he had before.
Yeah, physically and metaphorically.
Yeah.
So then comes the small intermission. Usually this is where it would end the episode, but it's pretty early, so we're gonna move on a little further. More. So the rest is really just very short scenes. Mm-hmm. First we get one at Kotonoha's house again. This is also
one where I wrote down metaphor.
Yeah. There's a lot of nice recycled assets from the scene earlier.
This is the scene that I thought about specifically, though.
I know what you mean.
This animation is cheap.
Kotonoha has some plans there. It seems that she's making a sweater. That's what I think. A long time ago.
I think she's making a scarf. She wanted to make a scarf for Makoto, right?
I think she wants to make a sweater. Like from the plans, it looked
that could be.
It looked like what was visible on the image of the part that she was making was the front part of the sweater.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's what she's doing. So a long time ago, I once was able to knit. Mm-hmm. No longer. I never even finished anything. It takes so long to knit anything.
Mm-hmm. I know that I was terrible at it in elementary school and never tried again.
What I do know is you do mistakes, like all the time.
Yeah.
Like you're just basically just keeping up this rhythm over and over again of putting the right thread through the right hole over and over again. And usually you just do mistakes in it and then you just keep on going, whatever, no one's gonna notice. But Kotonoha notices that she did a mistake and then she just starts unraveling the whole thing.
Yeah, like... She says she has to go back to where she made that mistake, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we see, like, Kokoro looking through the door, and she's like, she's trying so hard, and walks away again, and we only see the back of Kotonoha. And then when we see the front of her again, we see, like, that she's unraveled it almost down to the end. Like, she almost unraveled the entire thing.
Yeah, there's a whole pile of wool.
Yeah. So we kind of see, like, I don't know. I know you're not the literary theory guy. I'm the literary theory guy. But we see Kotonoha having this thing that she's built, and then she's unraveling at this point.
Yeah, I read that down as well. She's unraveling metaphorically.
Yeah, she's unraveling.
Like all that she's been trying was in vain, and she's undoing it all.
She's going back to the start at this point.
I also saw this like literally. Like she's noticed that she made a mistake in there somewhere. And now she's undoing everything.
Yeah.
Because she can't have any mistake.
Yeah.
Because I guess she's so afraid of losing him. That's how I understood this.
Yeah, I thought it like she was trying to go back to the mistake she made, like metaphorically, but she never made a mistake. So she has to go back to the start because she can't find it.
So in between she notices the mistake and she's almost unraveled everything. There was another short scene in between these. Because
just really quickly about this scene, just to... ended like the animation is so cheap.
Yeah, there's this one shot where we see her unraveling the thing.
Yeah, it's like the thread is like spread across the screen. And we see it unraveling bit by bit. And they use it twice.
Yeah. It's just static, it's not moving. In the background we can just see like Kotonoha's cleavage, I guess.
Cleavage.
It's weird.
And we also have another shot towards the end where she like pulls the thread out of this piece of wall she has in front of her.
It looks like really thick for some reason.
Yeah, and it never gets smaller. Like, she does this for, like, 10 seconds, and it doesn't get smaller by a single bit. It's just a recycled fucking GIF. But yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have bothered.
Animation's hard. Why are you gonna try for something like this?
It takes so long.
Okay, what's the intercut scene?
It's Sakai's house. Setsuna's there. Of course.
Yeah.
She's always there.
She lives there.
She lives there, apparently. Well, she doesn't. We see that in a bit.
Yeah, true. I like the idea of her, like, sleeping bundled up like a cat at the foot of her bed.
Like in her closet.
That would explain why she shows up in the middle of the night. Maybe her apartment is in Sekai's apartment.
So it seems that Setsuna has told Sekai that she blocked Kotonoha from Makoto's phone. So many names. I didn't mess up any of them. I'm so proud of myself. Setsuna says that she had to block him.
Mm-hmm.
He's her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And Sekai doesn't seem to be able to respond to this at all. He
There
just
is
kind of lets it happen.
Yeah. We have a continuation of this scene a bit later. We also see, like, after both of these scenes conclude, Setsuna returning to her actual apartment.
Yeah, her actual home.
Proving that she actually has a place to live.
Yeah. But we only see her enter the room, and all of her stuff is packed.
Yeah,
There's
everything is
boxes
packed
everywhere.
up into boxes.
We find out later that she's gonna move out.
Yeah, after the school festival.
And I think maybe this is the reason why she's spending so much time at Setsuna, because all of her stuff is already packed.
Yeah, my idea, that would make sense. But also, like, this is, as we find out, why she's trying so hard right now to get Sekai and Makoto together as quickly as possible and to get Kotonoha out of the picture. Because, like, she's not going to be there for Sekai anymore. And she wants someone to be there for Sekai when she's gone.
Yeah. Then we have another short scene. Because of the resolution, I couldn't quite tell. We're at a train station. I couldn't completely tell what station this was because of the image resolution. But it started with a G. So I will guess that it was Guacamole Station. Where
it might be, yeah.
It's actually called Gakuen Mai Station, but like to call it Guacamole Station.
Yeah, because that's easy, I guess.
So Kotonoha wants to write a message to Makoto, but then realizes that he has blocked her.
Yeah.
As she calls him, and like she gets an automated message that the ring couldn't come through because he has blocked her.
Yeah, and so, okay, I had questions about this scene. Mainly, is this how that works? Like, okay, I know you're not the most social media savvy person.
Hey, I just joined Twitter.
Yes, but usually it's like when you can't text someone, the message still sends, and you're not like shown, oh, this person has blocked you. There's some things on Twitter, for example, it does show you that a person has blocked you. But on most social media things, it's like you can, instead of saying accept or decline a friendship invitation, for example, you can say accept or ignore. Which is like, you don't specifically shove in the face of that person, hey, I don't want you around. Like that you call someone, it would tell you not, this number can't be reached. It tells you, this number can't be reached because this person fucking hates you and blocked you.
Excuse me, your call couldn't come through because you're worthless and no one likes you.
Your call couldn't come through because the person you just tried to call fucking hates you. But yeah, that seems pretty grim.
And she seems pretty heartbroken about it,
yeah.
Obviously. So next we get another short scene, this time in class 3, that's Makoto's class, where Makoto has the phone in his hand, on the blocking list, and he seems to be considering whether he should unblock her, but doesn't.
Yeah.
He's just looking at it like, I don't know. And the next one's a little weird, because Sekai shows up, sits next to him. I use show up too much. I say show up too much.
It's fine.
Appears.
You learn from now. Materializes.
Materializes. Swoops in.
Enter, stage right.
Sekai appears and says and just says that Setsuna did something, but just doesn't comment on it any further.
Yeah.
I mean, he understands it, and then they're just kind of looking at each other.
Yeah.
And in a way, I feel like they're kind of in the same boat on this one. Like, they both know that this is kind of fucked up, but they're both not willing to change it.
Yeah. They both know that this is kind of fucked up, but they're not willing to change it. School days. In this summer, the 3 guys showed up and noticed that something was really fucked up, but decided they wouldn't change it.
The 3 guys. So now we're in another gym class. Outside this time.
This is something I actually wrote something about because of, again, the weird characterization in this episode.
What did you write down?
I wrote down, like, what we have in this scene is Kotonoha sits at the edge of the field, like in the first episode, which is sort of a callback to that, where Sekai went to her and they talked together. When Sekai was still trying to set Kotonoha up with Makoto back in the day. Remember that? In fucking January, when we made that script.
That was almost a year ago, huh?
Yeah, that's a bit of a fucking time ago.
That was back in the before times.
That was back in the before times, before the plague hit. Oh man, can I mention that? No, plague is okay, I think. YouTube can't demonetize the video. Oh, and take away all that sweet cash I'm making with these episodes and the YouTube uploads. I have not made a single cent. Please, YouTube, pay me. Anyways, she sits at the edge, and Setsuna and Sekai sort of come into screen and see her over there.
She's sitting there alone.
Yeah.
Face empty, no thoughts.
Yeah.
In a fetal position, sitting on the ground.
And
all
Sekai
alone.
like looks at her like she feels bad about it. But
this is weird.
Yeah. That's what I
Setsuna's
meant.
also there, and she just says, "You can't worry about her," and she just nods. They turn around and walk away.
Yeah, and that was so fucking weird to me. That Sekai is like, yeah, I understand. Because this is so fucking weird.
This is such a big jump.
Everything else in this episode. Yeah, it's such a jump.
To me, this is like Star Wars Episode 3. It's like from Anakin is kind of turning to the dark side, and he just accidentally killed Mace Windu to, alright, I guess I'm your disciple now, I'm gonna murder a bunch of children.
So it's exactly like Star Wars Episode 3.
It's exactly like, that's what I just said.
Yeah. No, I just thought you thought, like, it's like as if in Star Wars Episode 3 that happens. No, that's just what happens.
That's not what I meant to say. That's not what I meant to say.
Yeah, it's so out of fucking nowhere. Like, I assume that the scene before, where like she's there with Makoto and they're like contemplating the fucked upness of the situation, is sort of set there to set this up. But it still comes out of nowhere.
You can't worry about her. You cannot show any compassion.
Yeah.
And this is how it feels. Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
I mean, something we can maybe come back to when we talk about the second half of this episode is if this sticks. If Sekai is like genuinely not giving a shit about Kotonoha anymore at this point.
If there's consistency.
If there's consistency, at least at this point. Because Sekai sure hasn't been consistent this show so far.
We have one more scene for this one. And this one's sad. This one got me for some reason.
Okay.
So,
it's not a good one.
So Kotonoha's on the roof again, alone. It's cold. This was mentioned before. We didn't say it, but
it's too cold to be on the roof.
Yes, it's just cold.
Point,
she's sitting there all alone. It's windy, and she has her basket there.
Yeah, like she made lunch for this.
And the day before, probably like she wrote a message to Makoto saying that, can we meet up tomorrow on the roof? And maybe she thinks that this message still went through and actually expects him to show up there. So she's just sitting there alone.
Right,
with
she
her
knows
sandwiches.
at this point that he's blocked her.
Yeah. This is sad.
Yeah. And we see a small shot of Makoto.
Yeah, Makoto's sitting somewhere having fun next to probably Sekai.
And there's beautiful meta text here.
Yeah, well.
There's beautiful fucking meta text
So he
here.
talks about some video game and how the main character is a loser.
Yeah, so the guy in the game is a complete loser. And there's two ways of interpreting that, and I think that's a good way of ending out this episode.
Was that the guy in the closet that we mentioned? The guy in the closet who comes up with these hints.
Yeah.
He's the one guy who's self-aware.
The one person in the show who's like, I've got to get this information out. But there's two ways of interpreting this, in my opinion. There's the one way that is like, it's Makoto. Makoto's a loser. There's the other way, though, which is to talk about game Makoto and anime Makoto differently. When they talk about the guy in the game as such a loser in comparison to the guy in the anime. Because the guy in the game only gets with, like, one girl. While the guy in the anime gets to have all the girls. So the guy in the game is such a loser. If that's the way it was intended, then,
okay.
I hate this even more.
And yeah, Kotonoha's just sitting up there, and then it starts raining.
And that's where we cut it off for this half of the episode.
This is sad.
This is sad.
Alexa, play Despacito. Bringing back the old memes.
This anime is kind of hateable.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't. I feel like we haven't. I feel like we're giving off the wrong impression by our literary analysis perspective here, which is very value neutral. That this anime isn't sort of disgusting.
Very value neutral analysis. We wouldn't ever give any judgment about this anime's quality.
we do give judgment, but we're pretty willing, I feel, throughout this podcast to put our best foot forward and to be like, we take the best possible interpretation.
Yeah. Only purely objective here. This is our 6 video Mauler video.
This is the Ben Shapiro hour. We talk about facts and logic and nothing else.
Did I say 6 hour? I say 6 video Mauler video.
It's also 6 hours. It's a 6 video Mauler video.
It's a 6 video Mauler hour.
Every hour of this podcast is at least 10 hours long, which causes an infinite podcast. Anyway. We try to be as #fair and balanced in this as we can be.
As facts and logic as we can be.
And to be like very charitable with what they actually intended. But I feel what we need to talk about in this episode is in our analysis of what the game is, and that the game might just be what causes the issues of the anime in a way, is that maybe everything fucking sucks.
Oh, just everything in general?
That's not where I was thinking I would go with this, but you know.
So is your analysis just everything is bad all the time?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, you know,
well, podcast done, the problem solved.
We're in November of 2020 right now. We're in the second lockdown.
Yeah, the author's dead. It's easy. We're done.
The author's dead. Everything sucks.
Everything is bad.
Everything just sort of sucks. That's not a good point to leave the episode on. What's something positive? What's something positive we can say about this half of the episode? What's something that we had fun doing?
We just did a laugh. We just committed the laugh.
We laughed a lot before, yeah.
We did.
We laughed a lot in the making of this episode, and that's something nice.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the Lidl grade heavy beer talking out of me.
Maybe that's
just in this depression.
Maybe that's the Edeka cider that I drank.
German brands. But we're still having fun. We wouldn't still be doing this if this wasn't still fun. And
yeah,
it's also
still doing it.
It's also like something that we're really like engaged in finishing. And
I just have to like edit this.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's your turn again.
And it's my turn. We do this in tandem.
Yeah, we do this in tandem. I did the last episode. He does this episode.
So yeah, the 2 weeks is a thing.
Yeah.
This was 3 weeks.
This was 3 weeks, but we try for 2 weeks.
You've been pretty busy.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. Like surprising, right? You can't leave the house and you're still this busy.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I think you've been doing job.
I've been doing job. I've been doing having human relationships with people. That takes away a lot of time.
I mean, admittedly, human relationships are for losers, and I'm a step ahead because I don't have any.
That's true. You're a human computer. Also, I'm like working on the second podcast right now. I've done a few meetings about that with people, talked through their stuff. It's going to be an actual play podcast. I've talked through some of the people's characters.
Yeah, I should do that also because I'm part of that.
Yeah, we should do that too. But that's not about this podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave you on this one. We'll try to be back again in 2 weeks with the second half of episode 7. We're more than halfway through the anime now.
Yeah.
We have 12 episodes in total, and we're at the first half of episode 7, so we're more than halfway through.
So I'm not that busy now.
Mm-hmm.
I did just finish a game so I was kind of busy as well. Can I do an ad for my thing on this podcast?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay.
Punch it out.
So I did just do a game, my second game, as a school project, but it is online. You can play it there.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Why the Chicken Crossed the Road. It's a 2D style, I'd say pretty difficult bullet hell, if you like that stuff. If you don't, I made another game earlier this year. It's called Lifelink. It's a horror-ish RPG. Has self-made textures and music in them.
Where can people find your games?
On my game jolt. That's Pursky, Pursky.
Persky?
Pursky. .gamejolts.io. Yeah, .io.
Yeah.
I'm also doing fan art sometimes. You can find that on my DeviantArt. That's impursky.deviantart.com. Or on my Twitter. That's Twitter @Pursky4. It just put the 4 in there. I didn't do that.
Okay, so if I remember, I'm gonna put the link to your game jolt into the YouTube description.
Do you want to advertise some?
I don't have a lot to advertise. I'll start advertising when I do the other podcast. Then I'll tell people where to find that. We're gonna be like last episode. I don't know if you noticed, we didn't put it up on all the platforms we usually do. We only put it up on YouTube. It's probably also gonna be the case for this episode, but that's not gonna last for all that long. We'll be back on all of our formats soon, and we'll re-upload all the other episodes there too when we get there. So it was a bit of upkeep. We're done with that now. See you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If the author isn't dead yet, we're gonna kill him by the end of this show.
We'll get him next time, boys.
We'll get him next time, boys. Bye-bye. Have a nice 2 weeks.